Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Franz-Grote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc.
Today's topic is transformational leadership, moving beyond traditional management. Question to the audience would be, how can you as a business owner transform your leadership style to better engage your team, foster innovation, and create lasting growth? That's what our guest is all about today, Reynald Labelle. Reynald has a PhD in transformational leadership education and is also an executive coach with over 5 decades of experience in educational administration, leadership development, and emotional intelligence. Throughout his distinguished career, Dr. Labelle has served as Deputy Director General of a school board with over 20,000 students, a university lecturer with over 21 years, and a leadership coach with over 1,000 hours of executive coaching under his belt. Certified in the Leadership Circle, Emotional Intelligence, and Integral Coaching, he's worked with leaders across government, education, and non-for-profits, guiding them to embrace innovation, collaboration, and personal transformation for lasting impact. Reynald, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for this invitation.
Tell us, I understand you have a book that came out just recently. Where can we find it, and what is the name of the book?
The name of the book in French is Less Management and More Leadership, More Transformational Leadership. That's the aim of the book. It's not a translation, I would say, like a synthesis of a more extended work from English work by Anderson and Adams calling Mastering Leadership. And there was also a translation in French, more extensive, like word to word from the English. But I found that this translation was a little bit too complicated for introducing this to the people I met. During the COVID, I had this objective to make something more accessible to a larger public of leaders. In French, the essential is there, but there's some more aspects more specified in the original works of the authors.
I understand an English version will be coming out soon.
It might be a new project that I didn't work on yet, but with my coach Hal, it could happen some days.
So, what does transformational leadership mean? There's leadership and there are leadership styles. Can you flesh out what transformational leadership's all about?
Yes, I would say that in all my trainings, even the PhD and the master degrees, what I learned more is about the traditional theories of leadership and management. This new approach was mentioned somewhere, but not very extensively. I was trained in this approach about 10 years ago with training in Toronto by the authors for his organization. And then this approach was the kind for me of enlightenment. It was something that gave me an all aspect of leadership and management. So I can make now the difference between the two, which is not always made in books and different trainings. Management, traditional style, is mainly based on exterior factors in organizations or in societies, like laws, politics, control strategies to realize efficiency. It is based on how to do things. Transformational leadership is based primarily on interior factors of each leader or each person. It is focused on the potential of each person, which potential is developing gradually in steps or stages. And this approach is mainly based on the recent research by psychological development person and also on the neuroscientific researches. This is the base that put in the focus on the person. because the observations of these researchers is that the traditional approach, the approaches that didn't give the results we are expected. They're a kind of failure because they are based mainly on the rational approach. The rational approach has certainly a good and a good place and a good contribution to knowledge, but it gives only a part of reality. There is another part of reality not considered in traditional leadership. So the synthesis is that management is something that gives results in certain situations. It cannot be put away, not at all, but it generates more control, more and more micromanagement, more and more ignorance of the emotional well-being of employees. And it does not appreciate the real contribution and the unique contribution to every people. So the emphasis is rather on conformity and resistance to change and innovation.
Basically, in essence, we're not machines. People are individuals. And it's almost like having a garden. Not everything grows at the same rate. Some needs more water, some needs more nutrients.
Yeah, it's related to this organic approaches of organizations rather as mechanical approaches. So the leadership, in the opposite of the management I described, is the ability to influence other people, the ability to develop inner security, inner capacities of self-reflection, capacities to understand their emotional aspect of their person so they can be more listening to these factors in themselves and in their collaborators.
Last 10 years or so, I've heard a lot more talk about emotional intelligence. Can you please tell us what emotional intelligence is?
So, as I said, relational management is on the rationality, on cognitive aspects of the person. But we have to also observe that there is other aspects in and consideration of the person. We cannot we have to consider the physical aspects, the somatic aspects, which is an important part. If you neglect this part, you can not go very far or very long in your trip. But the emotional aspects is all what is, how do I resent or how do I feel in situation with one person or another. The traditional approaches say this does not exist because it's not quantified. We cannot measure the emotions the same way as we can measure money or anything material. Okay? So the emotional intelligence is this capacities to first admit that you have emotions and be able to translate them, to express them, to give a name to their emotions. Am I stressed? Am I happy? Am I aggressive? Am I everything like that? So this first step is to be conscious of that. The second step is to express this to somebody, but also to other people. Because if I don't express these emotions, there's some things that they don't know, that they cannot consider. If I do that in a good adapted way, it will influence the relations. The relations will not be the same after the leader expressed his emotion. So after that, with this aspect, new aspect, who gives new informations, it can be taken in account when you have to take a decision. That when you take a decision, it might be rational, very sequential, very precise, very quantified. But you say, how do people will accept that? How do people will react to that? How would it make more cohesion or anything? So just think about what the other people will react to this decision, to this project, gives a more extensive knowledge of all the reality, so the decision should be better, more appropriate. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you just keep the emotion inside, just not dealing with it. And if you do that as a leader or as a person, that's their roots of all depressions, of all stresses, of all conflicts and everything. So that's the main objective, to consider this aspect here different in leadership, transformational leadership. But there's also the more comprehensive understanding of the person. There is also the ethical aspects. We have relation, but the ethical aspects goes to values. What are your values? What are the values we are dealing with in this decision, in this situation? If the values are clear and are very cohesive and coherent with all the setting, you should have a better decision. And the last aspect, some people would say it's the spiritual aspect, which is not always well understood by many people in our days. But I would say the aspect is, why do we do that? Not the quantify objective, but the real reason that we do that. What makes sense? How will people catch the sense that we are dealing with if we make it decisions? That's the holistic approach in the transformational leadership.
So when you're engaging a business, someone says, "Hi, I'm having problems." There's friction amongst the team, friction amongst the customers with different touch points. If things aren't going smooth or they're not growing, like status quo, they're not evolving into the next generation. How do you take a company and say, "Listen, this is what you got to do"? What are the steps for changing up that process for them? You might start out with the C-suite or upper management and work your way down. But how do you shift that culture inside that business?
It's a long process, but it's available to everybody. The first step is to be aware of something not going well in our, let's say, organization. But what is not going well? People are sickly, people are leaving the organizations. There's lots of conflicts between teams, behaviors like that. This is the first manifestation of something that's adequate when you compare your organization to others in the same area. You notice a difference. So there's an awareness of something not going well and the will to get all these behaviors I mentioned are called reactive behaviors. Reactive behaviors because people are reacting to something who is not adequate for them, to something who does not respond to their fundamental needs. So they have inadequate behavior. And it tends to be vicious circle repeating itself. So when there's awareness of that and a will to do better, to reach another level, the way to do that is effectively to make first an personal transformation. It's impossible to transform other people or other organizations if you don't transform something in yourself. So the leader who wants to be transformational, to be open to his own, to be open to look what in himself is generating maybe the behaviors I just mentioned before. The leader has this courage to look in the mirror and see himself as he is and be able to point the aspects who are not adequate to meet the new expectations of the organization, the people, and even the customers. The example I give is if you want to be in top shape physically, what do you do? You try to have a program, you try to make some exercises. You go to the gym or sports, but you have to do something. You cannot just think about, I want to be in top shape in 2 weeks. Doesn't work this way. If you want that, you go to the gym, you go to make a sport, you have a regular practice of different aspects. Sometimes you work on your cardio, sometimes you work on your strength, sometimes you work on other. It's the same thing with transformational leadership to become that. So there's the model says that the targets you have to deal with if you want to develop a real transformational leadership. And the beauty of this model for me is that you have to work on many aspects at the same time. If you want a good physical shape, you have to work on your nutrition program. You have to look on your sleeping hours. You have to look on your relations with your people around you and your family. So it's something extensive. And it works like it's the systemic approach that there's all parts of the system are contributing to the wellness of the system. So if you want transformational leadership, the 5 main aspects where the model has identified after many years of experience and research. This first is relation. Clear, it's unanimous in the community that all relations are very important and different aspects. And relation is subdivided in 7 sub-competencies. Everything relation, everything regarding to your own equilibrium, your own personal way of dealing with everything and how the right dose, the right aspect of everything. And the third is how can you manifest this? How your authenticity will be perceived by your followers, your team. So everything was corresponding and very, you see, that we say something and we do what we say. There's something with coherent. And when there's something not, you have the courage to express that. You have to deal with the aspects who are conflictual, but just to make them clear and have a solution. And the fourth is to have an overview of your organization and his immediate environment or the more far view. You have this also is a cognitive capacities to look at all parts as something working together and not have separate analysis without considering the others. Finally, is to have performance. We have to reach some goals. We have to realize something with different aspects and have the right direction, have maintained the direction you gave at the beginning, even if there is some difficulty to realize that. So those 5 aspects are essential. Making a recipe or a cake or anything else, not only one ingredient who is necessary if you want to have a good one. All the ingredients are essential. And the parts. You don't put 5 cups of milk in 1 cup of flour. You have to have the right doses. So transformational leadership is like that, working all together. But in the training, you don't do everything at the same time. We're expecting that it will result in something in 5 days. I call that also the microwave approach. It's not a microwave approach, something longer. That's the way they work. But this is long, maybe difficult for some people because it's all this, what I mentioned, the root of that is the self-esteem, the self-consideration, the self-security of the leader. If he is not confident in himself, if he is not secure, he will not be able to work on these competencies that I just mentioned. Instead, he will be reacting. If he's not, if he has a fear of his boss, his client, his customers, or his employee, he is insecure. He will feel criticized by his people and will have manifestations of reacting behavior.
You mentioned reactive behavior. What are some other forms of behavior?
The reactive behaviors were in the model are summarized in 3 fundamental aspects. One reactive behavior is the conformity. We ask and we want and we are secure when we conform, when we are very obedient to all the rules, all the processes, all the culture aspect. This is one category of reaction. The other reaction is the control. The control reaction to have the best result, thinking that the more you control, the more you will reach your objectives or performance, which is absolutely the opposite. And the third, which is in the middle, where we see the model, he said that the reactive is always in the position to what is done, what is proposed. The opposition, this fundamental, is a way that some people will feel more secure because they protect themselves at this time. This is mainly the model. I don't have the picture to illustrate more.
So, if someone is starting a business up, in other words, almost a greenfield approach, they might have certain preconceptions coming in, how to work with a team. What's the best way for them to start on the right foot going forward? They have to tweak as they move forward. Not everything is going to be cast in stone because we aren't machines. It's not like I buy a car, I expect a certain performance. I buy another car, it should have the same performance. So there's give and take. How do you set up a team to be successful, bearing in mind that they have to keep tabs on nurturing people at different paces, how you're feeling, the internal feelings that are driving your response? You might not like something. Why don't you like something? Is it bad? Is it just because you don't like it, because it's a pain in the backside to do? How do you shape that so they can go in? What type of toolkit do you have for that?
Maybe to answer your question, I will refer to my own experience first. As far as I was a young boy or a young teenager, I was not a leader. I was a follower. And I was also very interested in all the intellectual knowledge and everything. When I had my first appointment as vice principal of the school, I met the principal, who was is still one of my models. When I was the first minutes, the first hour in his office, then I asked him, but what I have to do here in this school? He said, you have 2 things to do. You will manage the student council, and you will be responsible for the discipline and all the rules for behavior of the students. So that's okay. But can you give more of that? He said, It's not necessary. Go in your office and you will see. That's all. So I received that as a great mark of confidence. He was leaving me all the space I have to do what I think was the best to do with all the people around. So with this, I started put something in charge. I remember there was only one paper for the bad behaviors of students. It was it's blue, if I remember. I say, the teachers, you tell me only the bad things the students did. Can you tell me also what they do good? They were never expected that. It goes this way. With the students, they have a council with young teenagers full of energy and potential. So I just listen to them and guide them for interesting projects to propose to the students. We were in a very poor place to that. We had nothing. But we imagined everything and we did something the first thing. The second director I had was almost the same. I was in charge of all the pedagogical aspects of the school. So he says, you think your projects, you have the full march that, and he never criticized or reject the project I built with my team. He said, you are the thinker, I'll be the seller. That's just my experience. So what I say first is to a new leader, which is have confidence in yourself and have confidence in your people also. Give them some guidelines for sure, but very large guidelines, not as in the traditional management cultures of expectations. So it's impossible to deal with that. Have confidence in yourself, put confidence also in your people. The second step, give them all the support they need, all the training they need, all the training they have for you. Have them and with them have practices of reflection, have practices of going of what has happened and how we came together. This is the approach we call experience and research. We do something, it's not perfect, we will be open to errors, but we will correct that, then we will be improving ourselves together.
Are there role models who've encouraged you that might encourage our listeners?
I didn't understand your question.
Role models, people who've encouraged you, people you look up to, people who have said, yeah, they do it well.
Yes, I can have examples of people who are very proud to make these realizations, to have this confidence. It's a continuous process. It's not something that you do once and then you forget it. It's something that is always considered improving, reacting, improving, coming back without with the great respect and confidence to the other people and without personal advantages that you are looking for. If a leader is acting to be have the next best promotion in his organization and is trying everything to put himself better than others, it doesn't work. People will feel that and will not collaborate with this kind of leader.
Quick question here. If someone says, I want to transform the business for whatever reason, either they're starting out in Brainfield or they realize the road's a bit rocky, how long would it take them, let's say with 100 staff, to transition? And if it's 1,000 staff or more, does it take longer? What's that process to take to redirect the ship?
We refer with this question to one aspect when we are dealing with change management. usually possible. We start with a small group as an experiential group who will work with the best leaders you have, the best people who are open to work on something new. It's not usually the best way to have a change like that or a transformation like that in all the people at the same time. So we call that to have a critical build, a critical group of people who are accepting this process of changing and transformation. And this small group will have influence with the leader on all the other people. And there's a curve of accepting changing in the organization. This is quite traditional, but it works this way. It's the best way. Sometimes it's not possible. When we deal with the last COVID, was all the people at the same time. It was hard and difficult to do that. And we lived all kinds of situations in that. But usually the best way is to start with smaller group and have this group be after the collective leadership instead of the leadership of only one person.
What advice would you give startups?
It's a matter of personal relations. I don't think you can sell and have the adoption of this model only by reading or writing something on this leadership. The best is with people to people and interactions with people who will build this transformation. I think so. It refers to the one main aspects, what I call relations in the create part of the model. There is a correlation established in the model, which aspect is the best, the highest correlation. There's variation in the creative, but altogether, as I mentioned, but always the dealing with relations is the best correlation, the highest correlation with the efficiency, with the performance. And in this model, the performance is not only mathematical or financial. The performance deals with all consequences will be qualitative aspects, will be also in emotional aspects of the people and the organizations. So this is relations, no performance without relations. With relations, good performance is the correlation very high, the highest one.
In a perfect world, who do you serve best? Who do you like to work with?
Oh, I work with all kinds of people. It's I like to work with people who have this will at the beginning, who feel that they are motivated to cooperate these transformation and are able to get a bit aside of the transformational leadership management. But my greatest, I don't see it, I'm sorry, is I think in our world, in my country, we are dealing more and more with reactive behaviors. We are reacting with more management, more conformity. So it doesn't go on the right side, in my own opinion. People have to have a great courage to get a little bit aside, rather long distance of these aspects. But when it's your boss who is asking you, who is expecting these behaviors, it's hard to comply if you don't want to lose your job.
And where do you serve? Is it mostly Canada? Is it North America? Is it the world?
I am in Canada, in the region of the capital of Ottawa. I am on the Quebec side, and I work more mainly on this region with the school boards. And now I have, with the last trainings I had on coaching, emotional intelligence leadership, I worked with people from the public service, government, Canada, or school organizations. I'm teaching mainly at the university for the young teachers who want to become co-directors. So I work mainly with these people. And that's one of the observations I have. These young people have a great ambition and great motivation, and they want to do the best. When they have their first appointment as a vice principal or principal, they find it very hard to apply what they learned at the university because there are all kinds of expectations, bureaucratic expectations. They cannot do what they really want to do. That's the greatest problem that I met right now.
If someone wanted to get a hold of you, how do you want them to reach out to you?
The phone number, it's 819-684-2268. My email, I will give you the email. You can reach me at the first one, LABREY at VIDEOTRON.ca. The other one is my Gmail. So it is Reynald Labelle at gmail.com.
I want to say thank you to Reynald Labelle, to Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you want to understand about doing the transformational management and need advice in that space and how to not be a cog in the wheel, reach out to Reynald. He will have some information for you.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayneemotive, 8UCA, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motive8u.caua. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support, and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Jovan Stricka from Ahai, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motive8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.